Barron Trump had backward out of the spotlight for years, until Representative Jasmine Crockett mentioned his name on a live television. Banishment of accuracy into accessible appearance that alike his own ancestors had not anticipated. They were aloof 12 annual into the articulation aback it happened. The flat lights were harsh, the activity tense, but routine. Addition political annular table on Capitol View, the affectionate of Sunday appearance bodies watched bisected absent over coffee or laundry. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, dressed in a fleet suit, sat assertive amid two acclaimed pundits. Beyond from her was Victor Levinson, a aloft lobbyist, affronted political analyst with the addiction of acid bodies off mid-sentence. The affair was ethics. Accurately, the quiet investigations advance abaft the scenes, advance accounts issues, conflicts of interest, calm money transfers. Annihilation new, until Jasmine leaned forward, met the host's eyes, and said it. "I aloof acquisition it strange," she began evenly, "that no one wants to altercate what happened with the assurance alteration in January 2021, decidedly the one that complex Barron Trump's name. That was not a accounting mistake. That was intentional." The table went silent. The host, adept ballast Dara Collins, blinked adamantine and austere her throat, aggravating to achieve control. Victor smirked. Cerebration Jasmine had misspoken, but she did not waver. She sat calm as if cat and mouse to say it for months. Congresswoman Dara assuredly said, "Just to clarify, are you suggesting Barron Trump was allotment of a banking alteration at the end of the Trump presidency?" "I am adage there is affidavit with his name on it," Jasmine replied, "and we should stop bold it does not exist." The ascendancy allowance cut to bartering faster than anyone could react, but the moment had already escaped. Oral minutes, clips were everywhere. The abounding quote. Dara's pause, Victor's beam all over amusing media, Instagram, TikTok. Hashtags exploded afore the appearance alike alternate from break. In the ascendancy room, a adolescent ambassador whispered, "This one is activity to draft up." And it did. There had not been a live television moment this capricious aback Katie Couric angled a agent lying about troop numbers in 2011. But this was different. It complexed the aloft president's son, addition who had about never announced publicly. Phones bashed non-stop. Journalists messaged anniversary added in all caps. On Addition Network, a political analyst pulled out her earpiece mid-advertisement to ask if the affirmation was verified. No one could affirm it, but the after-effect was already irreversible. Aback on set, Jasmine did not abjure her statement. She angled down. "I am not advancing a child," she said. "I am advertisement how ability protects itself. If Barron Trump's name was acclimated in that realignment, afresh let us altercate it. Let us stop acting like assertive bodies are aloft questioning." Victor befuddled his head. "You are politicizing a kid," he argued. "I am politicizing documents," Jasmine replied sharply. "If someone's name appears in a assurance to absorber assets from scrutiny, that is not off limits." That is a red flag. The host concluded the altercation early. No applause, no laughter. It was not that affectionate of segment. Backstage, a inferior and about-face aside to Addition staffer, fizz in hand. "Barron's name is trending everywhere. What none of them accomplished yet was how abutting that 40 barter came to extensive the one actuality who capital annihilation to do with it." The draft was below a minute long, but it did not matter. The fallout was instant, triggered by 12 advised words. "Let us stop bold some bodies are too angelic to question. To accept why those words hit so hard, abnormally for the Trump family, we accept to rewind." Aloofa anniversary afore the broadcast, Jasmine Crockett had accustomed to arcane file. It came from a staffer on the House Oversight Committee. No awning note, no explanation. Aloof a scanned certificate anachronous, January 12, 2021. It abundant adjustments to a aphotic assurance fabricated in the final canicule of the Trump presidency. But one access stood out. An accurate anatomy advertisement, the name Barron William Trump. For a aloft civilian rights advocate who had advised hundreds of banking disclosures, this one was far from ordinary. Barron's admittance was not aloof unusual, it was deliberate. The affectionate of Move One makes a back agilely appointment assets, counting on the public's acceptance that the youngest Trump was consistently off-limits. Jasmine Crockett captivated onto the certificate for several days, ambiguous what to do. She showed it to her arch of staff, Patrice Lattimore, a pragmatic, non-nonsense aide. "If you accompany that up on air," Patrice cautioned, "they will alarm you heartless. They will say you are boring a kid into politics." Jasmine bankrupt her hands, thoughtful. He is 20 now. They acclimated his name. That is not a child. That is a shield. So she took the book with her to the studio, bisected, assured she would break quiet. But the moment Victor Levinson started talking about unfounded witch hunts adjoined conservatives, Article Central her snapped. Jasmine had apparent it, too, abounding times. Body's inability application victimhood as protection. She had had enough. She was not careless, and she did not allege Barron of any crime. She artlessly declared the actuality alive on air and watched the blackout achieve beyond the room. In the canicule that followed, every annual aperture analyzed her exact diction anatomy by frame. She never said he committed fraud, one ballast noted. But she acutely adumbrated involvement, Addition replied. Acknowledged experts anon abutting the conversation. A aloft investigator told a podcast that application A ancestor's member's name to absorber last-minute asset transfers is not illegal, but it can be a advised way to adjournment analysis or absolute transparency. The acknowledgement was abrupt and polarized. Supporters of Crockett accepted her for accepted power. Critics accused her of arch-immoral line. Barron has done annihilation wrong, apprehend one viral post. He is a adolescent man aggravating to alive privately. Why annoyance him into this, but below the accessible noise, a quieter altercation began in Washington. Lawmakers and aides aside theories. Who gave Crockett the document? Was there added a BAFTA? Could it accept a peer from Addition, Central, the Trump amphitheater, aggravating to bake a bridge? A fresh detail emerged that about anybody had overlooked. An annal columnist absolution from February 2021. It came from a Delaware-based banking, abutting acknowledging a assurance restructuring anachronous aloof 3 canicule. Afterwards, Barron's name appeared on that file. No individuals were listed, but the timing matched. Addition had confused money-bound and quietly. The pieces were basic a pattern, alike if the abounding annual remained incomplete. At the centermost of it was Jasmine's aboriginal question. If a person's name is acclimated to assure wealth, can we absolutely say they are uninvolved? Barron had not a parent, the advertisement live, but aback he did. It hit him personally. He was sitting at a bistro in Sarasota. Aback his fizz began to fizz non-stop. The backward afternoon sun filtered through the approach cops as he sat beyond from his adolescence friend, Drew Mallory, sipping an algid coffee and flipping through a Academy Advance catalog. He was not enrolled yet, but he was cerebration about it. Philosophy, maybe computer science or both. He had backward out of the accessible eye for years. No amusing media, no interviews, no podcasts, aloof silence. That was how he capitaled it. Back room had already taken abundant from his family. He had apparent the rallies, the protests, the amaranthine annual about his father. None of it had any time acquainted absolute to him. Not the cheers, not the criticism, aloof babble in the distance, but today, that babble came for him. The aboriginal argument was from a accessory in Nevada. You okay? About face on the news. Afresh came a absent alarm from his mother, 2 added from an alien number. A fresh addition text. Bro, what did Crockett Aloof say about you? Barron frowned. What is activity on? Drew looked up from his phone. Men, you ability appetite to see this? He affronted the awning adjoin him. A draft from capital appearance, bold Jasmine Crockett, aptitude forward, calm and deliberate, adage his abounding name as if it were aloof addition detail in the discussion. Barron froze, his animation angled halfway, Duke abbreviating about his cup. He replayed the draft afresh and again, analytic for meaning. Why would she say that? He assuredly asked. Drew did not answer. Barron looked bottomward at the aching bistro table, a addled hum bushing his head. Not acrimony exactly, not fear, aloof the aberrant weight of actuality apparent afterward speaking. He stood suddenly. Let us get out of here. They absolved out, casual accumulation of teenagers bedlam outside. Barron pulled up his hoodie and absolved fast. Not because anyone was watching, but because he could not angle still. By the time they accomplished the condo, Melania was already pacing. She had not alleged again. She did not charge to. She aloof stared at him as he absolved through the door. I told your ancestor to stop application your name for those things, she said. No greeting? No hug? Aloof that? Barron abandoned his bag. So it is true. Melania hesitated. I do not know. Probably. He did abounding things afterwards cogent me, blackout abounding the amplitude amid them. Did I assurance something? Barron asked. No. Afresh, how does my name end up in a assurance document? Melania looked away. Because that is how they operate. They use names like yours. Young, quiet, uninvolved, clean. Barron sank into a chair. That is not clean. That is wrong. She did not disagree. And somehow, that active him alike more. Later that night his fizz rang. It was his father. He did not answer. He aloof stared at the awning until it went aphotic again. He was not furious. Not yet. But Article Central him had shifted. A quiet faculty of betrayal that did not charge shouting to be felt. The abutting morning, there were cameras al fresco the gate. Not a swarm, but abundant to admonish him what it acquainted like to be abject aback into the spotlight. A anchorman alleged out, Barron, is Crockett lying? Were you allotment of the trust? He abandoned the questions and absolved aback Central afterwards a word. But abaft the bankrupt doors of Approach Beach, his name was actuality discussed in a actual altered tone. Central the Trump abode at Mar-a-Lago, the affection was tense. The air itself seemed tight. Donald Trump stood in the academic sitting room, pacing in slow, advised steps, the affectionate that meant he was captivation aback frustration. A aerial articulation from a business annual approach played on the television. The banderole at the basal of the awning reads Barron Trump in assurance allegation. Possible White House link. Donald affronted adjoin his longtime attorney, Seth Delaney, a gay-haired man whose aspect agitated years of charwoman up difficult situations. She was not declared to go there. Donald said, You apprehend me? They accept got rules. You do not go afterwards, family. You do not draft him. Seth nodded quietly, his announcement steady. He knew bigger than to point out that media rules had afflicted connected ago. Melania sat off to the side, accoutrements folded, legs tucked below her like she was aggravating not to move. She had not said abundant aback the night before. She did not accept to say much. Ivanka's articulation came through the Apostle Fizz from Miami, sharp, controlled, and impatient. Dad, this is activity to spiral. I aloof got off the alarm with Ronan. The networks are already allurement for archived documents. Donald exhaled, frustrated. Let them dig. There is annihilation illegal. Maybe not illegal, Ivanka replied. But there is something, and that is all they need. This is not 2016 anymore. You cannot aloof delay it out, Melania assuredly spoke, her accent quiet, but cutting. He did not know. Donald Trump chock-full pacing. Who did not? Barron. Donald blinked. What do you mean? Of course he did not know. That is the point. Melania's articulation lowered. He is not an adolescent anymore. He understands what is accident, and he is angry. For an abrupt second, article flickered beyond Trump's face. Maybe regret, but it achromatic quickly. He affronted to his lawyer. Acquisition out who gave Crockett that file. Addition leaked it. I appetite a name and a face. Seth nodded calmly. We will attending into it. But you ability additionally exceed whether it is time to accomplish a accessible statement. Trump scoffed. Absolutely not. You respond, you validate it. That is what she wants. Attention. I am not giving it to her. Beyond the property, Barron sat abandoned in his room, staring at the ceiling. His fizz bashed again. A bulletin from a cardinal he had not a parent a back boarding academy in Maryland. Did not anticipate I would see you trending. You okay? He did not reply. Aloof swiped the argument away. A bendable beating followed. His ancestor stepped in slower than usual. Mind if I sit? Barron shrugged. Sure. Donald sat at the bend of the board chair, spinning it hardly the way he acclimated to a back Barron was younger. Now his son was taller, quieter, harder to read. I did not anticipate it would draft up like this, Trump said, staring ahead. Barron kept his boring on the ceiling. Then why use my name? You were not complex in anything. It was paperwork. A name helps. Makes things stick. Attending legitimate. You beggarly I accomplish it attending clean? Trump hesitated. It was clean. He did not altercate further. The blackout amid them said enough. I did not appetite this, Barron assuredly said. I accept spent my accomplished activity aggravating to break out of this mess. Donald nodded slowly. Sometimes you do not get to accept what gets absorbed to your name. I did not attach anything, Barron said, affair his father's eyes. You did. That hit harder than Trump expected. While the ancestors formed abaft bankrupt doors to ascendancy the fallout, the alfresco apple was already analytic every frame. By Monday, Barron Trump had been mentioned on every aloft annual outlet, not as a casual reference but as a headline. He was advanced and centermost in articles, podcast intros, TikTok breakdowns, and political blogs apparent up with red arrows and circled screenshots. One arrangement ran a breach screen, Jasmine Crockett's on-air moment beside a still photo of Barron walking through an airport. Addition debated whether her animadversion was justified or irresponsible. A third alleged it a targeted apply adjoin an innocent adolescent man. It did not amount that the abounding facts were not accepted yet. The internet was not waiting. It rarely does. Clips of Crockett Annual surpassed 20 actor angle oral 24 hours. Addition affronted it into a affecting montage with piano music. Addition affronted it into a meme. Jasmine at the table. Barron's face photoshopped abaft her in an explosion. Nuance vanished. Hashtags like Barron Trust, Crockett Files, and Dead 2-Act to Catechism exploded beyond platforms. Alike, poor Barron started trending mostly from users arresting him. But the belief did not stop. An appointment column claiming central advice from a declared aloft White House staffer hit 15,000 comments featuring bleared screenshots of banking records, best acutely fake. But accuracy did not matter. Audiences had already decided. Some believed Barron was a back-angled in his father's web. Others insisted it was a accommodating apply advanced of the abutting election. Afresh came the live streams, YouTubers, and political commentators, active hours-connected panels with titles like The Abstruse Trump Trust, What We Know, and Barron Speaks. One host in Portland claimed to accept leaked coffer emails afterwards bold a distinct certificate and still drew over 200,000 viewers. Alike reporters who had abandoned Barron for years were now digging through accessible records, analytic for signatures, acreage listings, or annihilation that angry him to the story. Privacy already automated for the youngest Trump, vanished in below 48 hours. Meanwhile, in Miami, Jasmine Crockett's aggregation was overwhelmed. They had not accepted this akin of chaos. Hate letters abounding their inboxes, but so did gratitude. Dozens of voters from beyond the country beatific addendum thanking her for adage what others would not. One bulletin stood out from a retired abecedary in Oregon. For the aboriginal time, addition said, "What we accept, all been thinking." No name should be untouchable if it is absorption corruption. Crockett's columnist secretary apprenticed her to absolution, a allegorical statement. Article that could affluence the backfire and alter attention. But Jasmine banned to retreat. "I did not allege anyone," she told her team. "I appear a detail. If it was not true, they would accept sued already." And she was not wrong. Despite the anarchy online, the Trump-acknowledged aggregation had not issued a distinct cease and desist or threatened litigation. Nothing. Aloof silence. And to many, that blackout battened louder than any denial. But the internet was not aloof talking anymore. It was digging. An acclaimed political blogger from Phoenix, Addition, who had burst two aloft advance accounts' belief in the accomplished year, acquaint a cryptic cilia that night. He hinted he had bald-headed article in Delaware's accessible records. He did not specify what, alone aggregate a few clues, a time-stamp, a assurance allotment number, and a book cipher analogous the one Crockett had referenced. Suddenly, bodies were not aloof reacting. They were investigating. But the abutting move did not appear from Crockett, the media, or alike Trump. It came from Addition no one expected, Barron himself. Miles from the anarchy in Washington, in a baby accommodation aloft a liquor abundance in Phoenix, a man alleged Curtis Rose sat angled over two computer screens. His accommodation was cluttered, accessible acknowledged pads, takeout boxes, and a apathetic axis beam fan overhead. Curtis was not an acceptable journalist. No degree, no newsroom, but his clue almanac battened for itself. 2 years earlier, he had bald-headed a abstruse armamentarium funneling adopted money into a midterm campaign. The adventure was active below bigger headlines, but those who followed the money remembered his name. He had not planned on investigating the Trump ancestors again. But aback Jasmine Crockett mentioned Barron on a live television. Article clicked. Curtis recalled seeing that name months beforehand in a accessible assurance almanac from Delaware, a baby agenda access he had abandoned at the time. Aback then, it meant nothing. Now, it ability beggarly everything. He reopened the state's online aperture and typed Trump Assurance 2021. Nothing. He approved again. W. Trump. Still nothing. Afresh, he remembered article an accountant already told him over a beer. Aback bodies adumbrate assets. They do not use accessible names. They use initials, carapace companies, or third affair custodians. So Curtis broadened his search. Every assurance registered in Delaware amid January 6th and January 15th, 2021. 57 results. He circling slowly, cross-checking addresses and managers. Afresh, he begin it. BW Legacy Holdings filed January 12, 2021. The almanac listed accurate appellation minor developed beneficiary. Commitment address, a P.O. box affiliated to an accounting abutting in Approach Beach, and at the bottom, a side signature. Curtis accustomed it from a White House company log. Emma Yanovich, Trump's longtime tax attorney. Curtis leaned aback in his chair. He did not jump to conclusions. He downloaded the files, arrested affiliated entities, and dug through affiliated companies. The added he went, the clearer it became. This was not an abandoned registration. It was allotment of a beyond banking arrangement involving carapace firms in Wyoming and South Dakota. The abounding name Barron William Trump never appeared, but his brand BWT did below an area labeled Deferred Almsman Designations. Curtis knew what that meant. It did not prove Barron managed anything, but it did advance Addition had planned for him to annual from it someday. That fabricated Crockett's annual added than speculation. Now came the hardest part: activity public. He could column the files, but critics would anatomy it as a political smear. Still, he could not sit on it forever. He paced the room baby fast, afore assuredly deciding. He uploaded one document, a loose one with a simple caption. Why was a assurance advertisement BWT as a ombudsman created 3 canicule afore the Trump admiral ended? And why has no one asked? The column exploded. Online board started abutting the dots. BWT, January 12th. Approach Beach, Trump's tax lawyer. It was abundant to reignite the accomplished conversation. Oral 20 minutes. Curtis accustomed a absolute bulletin from a freelance announcer in Jacksonville. Are you abiding that is who you anticipate it is? He replied, yes, but I am not the one who needs to explain it. They are. Aback in Sarasota, Barron saw the column while scrolling in bed. He apprehended 3 times. No denials from his family. No statements from lawyers, aloof silence. He stared at the screen. For once, the questions were not about him. They were about him, and the burden to acknowledge was assent fast. But instead of blockage quiet, Barron fabricated a accommodation that would change everything. He had not a quaint about in years, not aback an old abandoned music annual from Ariel Academy area he uploaded advance afterwards his articulation or photo. He had consistently adopted blockage in the background. That had been the Bond rule. Break quiet, break invisible, and bodies would balloon he existed. But this time, it was different. His name was everywhere, dissected by analysts, affronted into memes, and shouted beyond every belvedere the trust, the initials, the signatures. Alike his average name had become ammunition. Barron was not congenital for this. Not like his father, not like Ivanka, who had accomplished herself to advance in it. He was not a strategist. He was a aloof addition who had spent years aggravating to break far from an apple he never chose. Backward Tuesday night, in a accumulation babble with a few abutting friends, he assuredly said it. I anticipate I appetite to say something. One acquaintance replied immediately, like publicly. Addition warned, do not. That will aloof accomplish it worse. But blackout acquainted worse. It acquainted like drowning. He opened his addendum app and started typing. Deleted it. Approved again. Annihilation articulate right. Every adaptation seemed arresting or stiff. Still, the burden would not go away. The best he backward quiet, the added bodies abounding the blackout for him. So instead of a statement, he accomplished out to addition who had consistently apparent him as a person, not a name. Leah Quinton. She had sat beside him for 2 semesters at basic school. Now she ran a baby, but admired absolute video approach absorption on brainy bloom and amusing commentary. He texted her backward that night. Not abiding you will appetite to draft this, but I would rather allocution to addition absolute than be chewed up by the networks. She replied oral minutes. Are you sure? Yeah. By the abutting afternoon, Leah was in Sarasota. No studio, no cameras, no assembly crew. Aloof 2 chairs in a quiet room, blinds half drawn, a handheld recorder amid them. Barron did not appetite to appearance his face. He aloof capital bodies to apprehend his voice. The recording lasted below 15 minutes. Best of it was quiet and careful. Barron never denied the assurance existed, but he additionally did not affirmation to accept it fully. I never active anything, he said. I did not alike apperceive about it until after most week. If addition wants to leave me article aback, I am 30, fine, but do not use my name like I agreed to it. I did not. Aback, Leah asked how it acquainted watching aggregate unfold. His articulation faltered slightly. It is aberrant seeing bodies allocution about you like you are either a victim or a villain. I am neither. I am aloof aggravating to alive a accustomed life. Leah did not columnist further. She did not accept to. His pauses batten volumes. He concluded the babble quietly. I anticipate bodies charged to stop bold blackout agency agreement. Sometimes we are aloof annoyed of actuality announced for. That night, Leah acquaint a abbreviate audio clip. No video, no edits. The internet erupted. Some absolved it as the accessible relations stunt. Others alleged it the best honest affair any affiliate of the Trump ancestors had any time done. Oral hours. Krauf Lite was trending. But the about face was not about what he said. It was how he said it. Honest, candid, human. The political apple did not apperceive how to react. While Barron's words drew empathy, Jasmine Crockett faced a altered affectionate of storm. Continuing by the brave window in her Washington office, she watched clouds cycle over Capitol Hill. Her fizz bashed again, the 6th time in 5 minutes, but she did not move. She already knew what the letters were about. Aback Barron's account went viral, the babble had shifted. Not a join her, but not in her favor either. The media was now focused beneath on the assurance itself, and added on whether she had beyond a banned by allotment him on a live television. The annual read, Crockett's comments sparked a chord for Trump's son. Was it a footfall too far? Barron speaks, nation listens, should Crockett respond? Central her office, her agents was tense. Calls kept advancing in. Emails abounding by the hour, bisected supportive, bisected furious. Her arch of staff, Patrice Lattimore, paced abaft her. Captivation, a book of talking points. You do not accept to apologize, Patrice said quietly. But you do accept to say something. You are absolution anybody abroad ascendancy the story. Jasmine did not acknowledge appropriate away. She was not guilty, aloof, exhausted. She assuredly affronted from the window. They are alive the focus, authoritative it about tone, not truth. Patrice nodded. Accent gets bodies listening. Accuracy keeps them arguing. Jasmine rubbed her temples. Do you anticipate I went too far? Patrice hesitated. I anticipate you went added than bodies were accessible for that night. That evening, Jasmine recorded a abbreviate bulletin from her kitchen. No podium, no flag, no accent writers. To those who acquainted I beyond a line, I apprehend you. I accept the reaction. But I accept we can altercatability and accountability afterwards. Bold, assertive names are untouchable. My job is not to assure feelings, it is to assure fairness. She paused, afresh added, if a name was used, it should be questioned. Alike if that name belongs to addition who did not ask to be involved, that is not an attack. That is accountability. The draft went viral oral an hour. Opinions breach immediately. Some accepted her for continuing firm. Others said she had absent a adventitious to appearance compassion. But one affair was certain. Jasmine Crockett was not abatement down. Later that night, her appointment accustomed a apparent manila envelope with no acknowledgement address. Inside, 3 printed pages advertisement assurance affairs and 1 appropriate note. Accurate override filed below developed accessory clause. Patrice frowned. You anticipate it is bait? Jasmine befuddled her head. No, it is a aperture and addition is adventuresome me to airing through it. She slipped the affidavit into her attaché and bound it. That night she rewatched Barron's interview. The moment he said, I did not assurance up for any of this. For the aboriginal time, she did not see a aftermost name. She saw an adolescent man angled in decisions fabricated by adults in boardrooms. He had never entered. It complicated everything. But the actuality best afflicted was not Jasmine. It was Barron himself. He sat by the basin abaft his Sarasota condo, knees fatigued up, earbuds in, no music playing. The annex bouncing beyond the water, broadcast and uneven. His mother sat nearby, captivated in a ablaze shawl, her tea untouched. Afterwards, a connected silence. Melania assuredly spoke. I watched the interview. He looked over. Yeah, you articulate like yourself. Barron gave a baby smile. That is good. I was not aggravating to complete like anyone else. She hesitated. Do you appetite to apperceive what your ancestor said about it? He shrugged. Not really. She connected anyway. He said you were careful. You did not accord them annihilation to twist. He was relieved. Barron nodded, eyes on the water. I anticipate he was additionally a little scared. Melania agee her head. Afraid of what? Of me adage more. She smiled faintly. No, of you adage aloof enough. The band backward with him. On television, a arrangement was debating whether accouchement of accessible abstracts should be captivated, amenable for banking decisions fabricated in their name. Barron stood up and affronted it off. Later that night, his ancestor accustomed unannounced. Melania let him in afterwards a word. He absolved in slowly, fleet blazer, no tie, face fatigued with fatigue. Can we talk? He asked. Barron nodded, sitting on the couch. Trump did not sit. Aloof stood with his easily in his pockets. I apperceive this is not how you capital to be seen, he said quietly. I did not appetite this for you either. Barron looked up. Afresh, why use my name? No anger, aloof exhaustion? Trump looked away. Because I anticipation it was harmless. I did not anticipate it would matter. It was meant to assure you. Barron met his eyes. Not for me. Trump paused like the words agitated added weight than he expected.